forecasting. We talked about that kind of stuff and tracking your revenues and your expenses. And we talked about that kind of stuff. So a lot of the stuff we've been covering in class. So he's got some remarks he wants to make to you, pretty much conversational. So as you have questions or thoughts or need, I'm sure he would prefer that you just go ahead and ask them that way. And he loves that we run this more as a discussion conversation class rather than a formal lecture. He was a little worried at the thought of this as I've got to talk to. So he likes that. We're just going to have a conversation. All right. So Martin, you have Jay, Jake, Adrian, Megan, and Alyssa here.
All right.
We're missing 3, but hopefully they show up and we'll introduce you to who they are.
All right. Before we start, I have an exercise I like to do. So I would like you all to take 4 seconds to breathe in, hold it for 2 seconds, then breathe out for 4 seconds. Okay. I'm going to do it with you. Guys ready? Okay. And then look at your feet. Okay. And the reason I ask you to do that is because we are present right now, right here in this moment. Okay. I know personally that time is your biggest asset. It's the only thing that ever works in your favor, but it's also the one thing that can be extinguished like that. I didn't start my business because I was ready. I started this business because it was necessary. Before, I was a car salesman, and I worked here at Edwards, and I was the #1 salesman there 8 months in. So I had a spectacular record. I was making lots of money. And I went home one Saturday night and I had heart failure, 10 o'clock in the evening. By 7 o'clock that morning, I was life flighted. I had my first heart attack. I drove myself to the hospital here, which I shouldn't have done, but 911 just wasn't in, I was thinking, man, I don't have the money to pay for this if I survive. So I was life flighted. About 6 months later, I had a triple bypass and I died on that table. So after that, I went back to Edwards, but the stress of being a salesman, it kind of sent me on a different path than I was expecting. Like, you can't just dictate your path when your focus has to be more than yourself. Like, I got twin granddaughters that were born a year and a half ago. And so I figured, how can I make something better for them that will last after I'm gone, or build something that's big enough and simple enough that my wife can run it if I'm not here, So that's what I did. And it wasn't a perfect time, man. Everything was going haywire. I pretty much got let go from my job that I plan to retire from, but I didn't like working for people either. I love my freedom. And I love my freedom because I spent 20 years in prison, well, not the whole 20, but I spent 7 years flat of a 20-year sentence in prison. So I don't take time lightly. I don't take seeing my family lightly. I don't take feeding you all lightly. That's a responsibility, and it's been that way since the beginning of the time. People that feed you, they have a big responsibility. One wrong move, you make people sick. You make people sick, people die. And you're responsible for that. So I take it with a sense of integrity that it's my job to make sure I feed you all good food, man. And I love feeding people, But more so than that, I love to see you all's face when you come up to the trailer, man, and you try my mac and cheese, and it's probably the best mac and cheese you'll ever have in life. I'm just going to put that out there. And when you do, that stuff is the reward waiting for me at the other end. So I was running into financial trouble when I met Mrs. Coder. So you guys have a cheat code here because my need for finance was like this big. I only had so much money and I used all my own money to start. I took the $50,000 that I had and the $14,000 that I had in stock and just jumped into a food trailer, not knowing if it was going to pan out. I knew I had the food. but where was I going to get a crew from? You know, people that wanted to work for me. And how was I going to pay them, most importantly? You know, that's a big decision. How am I going to pay these people when I can't pay myself? A lot of the times I'm cooking the food. A lot of the times I'm serving the food. A lot of the times I prepare the food. And it takes days. So what I did was I listened to her when she said, somebody's got to tell you that the baby is ugly. And I'm sure you all heard it from her before. So she told me that the baby was ugly. She said, you know, I enjoyed everything when I ate at your trailer, except for the wait time. I thought the wait time was kind of, you know, it turned people off and made some people turn away. And it was from the mac and cheese, you know, just to let y'all, yeah, mac and cheese. So that was a eye-opening moment for me. And then there were costs that I didn't expect. Like I didn't know it was going to cost us an extra $5,000 to get the license for the trailer, or you know, an annual $1,000 to get our license updated and go to school and get, you know, all these unexpected expenses came, man. And when they did it, it placed the stress on my family that, you know, I don't know if any of you guys are married, any of you girls are married, but when your significant other isn't pulling a lot of weight, man, ugh, it causes extra stress. And so how I decided to keep food costs down was I looked pretty much at the total revenue. What am I making really? You know, because I spend a lot of time on the smoker. If you ever see me, and you'll see me a lot, pretty much if you come to the Storm Lake Lakeside area, I'm out there. I smoke all this food at my house. If I'm not out there, I'm in front of the church over here by the courthouse, and I'm smoking food. But in order to do that, I had to save money somewhere. So I spent a lot of money last year going to Ragbri. That was my first time doing Ragbri, and it was in Milford. And man, when I say the amount of people was mind blowing, I had a crew of probably 12 people, and people like to help, you know. So I had some people that helped. Um, they had shower trucks out there. It was bikers coming from everywhere, and these people were hungry. You know, and I get it. You just rode 70 miles on a bike. You probably got a chafe behind, and you're hungry. You want to eat, take a shower, go to sleep, get up, ride some more. So, you know, we were prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared for the numbers that came with it. I didn't have a working knowledge of what should be refrigerated and what shouldn't be refrigerated and how much to bring. So we over ordered. I still have food from last year that I'm just like, I'm shaking my head about because I feel like I took a loss, but I really didn't. I learned something from it. And I think that's the most difficult process in being an entrepreneur is stopping long enough to learn, you know, because you got to put your ego aside. I have to put my ego aside. I have to not depend so much on what I want and depend more on the logic of the business. You know, if it doesn't make sense, I probably shouldn't do it. So what I did was cut the bakers out. I don't want to buy buns no more. You know, it's too expensive when I could buy bags of flour, oil, baking powder. I won't tell you all the ingredients, but I can make my own bread. You know, now it's a signature dish. So the signature in that bread is the benefit of it is I can use it for tacos, I can use it for sandwiches, I can use it for everything across the board. So it's our house bread. So now I've saved money. I don't have to pay a baker. I don't have to pay a distributor for, you know, extra food. And that makes a difference, man. I think um probably at about a 30% of my total annual income type of difference was spent on bread and beverages. And so bread goes bad quick. So what I did was formulated, okay, if I cook this bread, I could cook it per batch. So if I see people walking in and I make batches of a dozen, people walk in and we get to 6. Okay, I need to make another batch. You see, so now it's saving me money all the way around and nothing goes bad. There's no waste. But if there is extra, I like to give it to people who are less fortunate. you know, because nobody really knows what they need until they need it. And people out here still need to eat to function, period. You know, my business started by coming out of prison. I married my wife in 2020, but I've known her since 1995. And so she walked with me through this path. And I knew my inherent responsibilities just from speaking with my in-laws. You know, that bread picture is my wife's grandmother's bread, but my wife actually made it. And so I worked for her grandma one time, and she had me cut her yard, you know, just cut the grass. And she came out with these scissors. And I remember this specifically because I didn't understand what she was doing, but I understand it now. And she asked me, could you cut the blades of grass in between the gate? You know, and this gate was long. She had a big yard. And so I took offense to it at the time, like, man, you asked me to do all this extra work, but I was being paid for my work, for my time. So it helped me understand the concept of owner, operator, employee, you know? And so I understood that I was an employee at that point, but that she was measuring me by the amount that I would go extra to make sure that the job was complete. And so basically that was for her granddaughter, you know? But here we are 20 something years later, and I'm the same guy that would cut that blade of grass in between that gate. I haven't changed that. I'm the same guy that'd get up at 4:30 in the morning, even though I suffered had a triple bypass, because I'm still here, man, and I'm still present in this moment. And it makes a big difference to show up and be consistent, because you are your dream. You are your vision. You are every bit of your vision. You are every bit of the consistency you put into it, every bit of the ideal you put into it. People don't know that end of your story. All they see is the finished product. So I brought those pictures in because they're all off center or missing a piece, but they're all authentic. You know, so I didn't come to give you a polished gem. I just came to activate you because I've been activated too. Being an entrepreneur is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Having ideas in your head, you have a million ideas and you're looking for a way to get them out. It's not always clear, you know, which path you should take or how to organize them, because they just kind of all come together. You know what I mean? When you're in rooms like this, a privilege, like this is a privilege for me. This is an honor for me, man, to be here with you guys, because we share information. In my journey, I've ran into so many no's that I'm sure the average person would, you know, they would have gave up, folded. This is our third season. In the third season, you have a 5-year window in the food industry. 5 years gonna make or break you. Don't have a brick and mortar, so I made do with everything we have. We have a trailer. The smartest decision I ever made was to pay off my trailer first season. I don't owe no money on it. We own this business now. Next was the branding. You know, figure out my branding and which lane I want to cater to and how I'm gonna get it out there. You know, that's not an easy thing to figure out either. Who's gonna pay attention? Well, it's not so much for me who's gonna pay attention anymore, but who am I to reach? You know, it's my assignment to reach people too. It's not my duty to just sit and take. I think a lot of people would take what would you call it? They would take abuse. You know, it's like a negative attention seeking. You can't do that in this business, in any business. Um, when you're an operator, people look for you to lead. Period. Across the board, you have to lead. So in doing that, um, you have to get past your ego and ask for help. So I asked for help. Uh, Mr. Cody gave me some things to do, and I wasn't, I wasn't too gung-ho, but I knew there was a purpose behind it. And so I sat my butt down and I focused, and this is what I came up with after that. And it was a way to just cut costs, man. Where could we save money? What would make the biggest impact? What's a legacy that belongs to my family? All that's legacy that belongs to my family. Everything on there, and it can be shared. It can be taught through YouTube. It can be shared with you all sitting here right now. Hopefully you come up to the food truck when we're here. I remember faces better than I do names. And forgive me, I'm an old dude. I'm 50 years old. Well, I'm not old, but yeah, I'm old. I'm a grandfather. I have twin granddaughters. My first granddaughter just took her first step last week, and I was able to capture it. And the only reason I was able to capture it is because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't work for anybody. I work for the purpose of improving the conditions of people around me, from my family to my community. I'm not from here. I came from Montana, but I belong here. And how did I know that? I'll tell you how I knew it. I went and researched Mr. Sibens, Dr. Sibens, and found out some things about him that were similar to me. But the biggest thing I found out was his legacy, because it started with this building, and then they built those buildings over there last year. And I looked at the football field and how it's positioned by the lake. And all this came from somebody's vision and insight and just want to make their community better. I'm here. And despite all the things that are negative about this place, this is the most positive thing I can think of, man, to have an effect. My granddaughters will be brought up here. So I want them to be able to walk around with their head up, not because they're sedity. I want them to walk with their head up because they belong. You're a part of this community. And people will know you because your grandfather fed people. And your grandmother smiled at people and served them. And your grandfather came and handed me this, or, when we were in need, helped us out with this. I think that's the best, what would I call it? The best solution to problems. That's what we do. Each and every one of us see a problem and we solve it. We can't be taught that stuff in a book. That's real life, real time things that you have to solve. So I'll give you a good example. In 2019 or 2018, I was violated for my parole, sent back to prison, and for a crime that I didn't commit. There was no crime, but I understood that the policies of the people in that courtroom were against me. It wasn't for crime, it was for conviction rate and recidivism. And then understanding that the same attorney that walked me into that courtroom was the one that got me 20 years in the first place, and I fired him. And I took the next 2 years of my life. I called my wife and said, hey, I'm going to have to fight this case myself. I fired my attorney. I got into the law books and I studied law 10 hours a day, every day, until I walked into that courtroom. And I didn't know how to address the court, but I learned how to address the court because I was fighting for my life. When you step into the business realm, you're fighting for your life. This is your legacy. That's my legacy. This is my legacy. I put on this shirt and I smile, man. I got my name on it, so you know my name, and I have my brand on it. So I was able to get the state of Montana back 100 years. I'm not going to live 100 years, but that's the sentence that they were looking to give. When you're what they call a habitual offender, they add stipulations. It just becomes bigger than you. So it was either sit back and not pay attention to what's going on, or actually stop and pay attention to what's happening around you. Be very aware, and make decisions based on that awareness. So it's always real time. I don't know how many of you guys in here have businesses or girls, but I can tell you, if you're thinking about starting a business, jump in there with both your feet, because there will never be perfect weather unless it's already a business that's set up for you. You got to lay a brick every day. So every day I'm laying bricks. It may have looked on the outside like, oh, this guy's not working this winter. I worked all winter. I worked on doing my own media, so I wouldn't have to pay somebody to market for me, because I kept asking people to do it, but all of it came with a price that I couldn't afford. So I learned how to bypass that price that I couldn't afford and just learned how to do it myself. It's not perfect, but I'm not perfect either. But it's perfect for me because I don't have to pay nobody. That's my biggest pain in the rear is, how do I afford to pay people? Because I can't have people working for free. And I know how it is on the other side of that. I've had jobs from McDonald's. Was my first job and I hated it. Just to put that out there. Nothing against McDonald's. I'm sure they help a lot of people. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I've done everything from working at McDonald's. I've owned a car detailing business with some friends. So if you're deciding to go into business with friends, set clear boundaries. Whoever is going to dictate whatever part you play your part. That's the danger of going in there with friends, is because they still want to, think it's friendly, but we're talking business now. We're trying to capitalize, not lose money. If I need to pay you to hang out, then it's the wrong kind of friendship. So in those instances, it kind of, I don't know, made me realize that you have to have something worth fighting for. And if your business is worth fighting for, which I think each and every person in here, if you're ready to go forward, including Davis, if you're ready to go forward, man, put a foot in there. Test the water. What's the worst that can happen, right? I walked into a bank with a 750 credit score, money in the bank, and asked for a loan, to be told no. Although I was given a commercial loan for debt. So I walked to this bank 3 times and asked for the same loan and was told 3 times no. Well, I wasn't denied. That was something bigger than me speaking. That was the universe speaking, saying, hey, this loan is not your direction. To take on more debt is not your direction. So you have to solve a problem there, right? How do you get funding? Does anybody know, how do you get funding if the banks tell you no, or you can't get a loan?
Investors.
And what if investors tell you no?
We're in the middle of all of those chapters right now.
Oh,
So we
okay.
just started that.
Okay.
So we haven't gotten into all of those.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a gem. This is what I just learned. If investors tell you no, there are also grants. That's your cheat code. I promise you. This lady will sharpen you up, man. She's your cheat code. She knows all this information, but it doesn't come. She's not just gonna hand it to you. Like, I didn't walk in and she just said, "Here, contact these people and get funding." No, she had me sit back and analyze my business, which sharpened me. Steel sharpens steel. And when I analyzed my business, it was a lot of things. Here's my original menu. You can sit that down, please. That was my original vision. Like I said, it's not perfect. It's written in ink and it's on a piece of paper. But that's how that started. And the only defining difference, and I'm gonna draw from Hermes Ascadome, the only defining difference was I didn't quit, and I haven't quit. And I got a mountain of no's, but that mountain of no's led me to these opportunities. So one yes and a mountain of no's will focus you. It's gonna sharpen you, and it's gonna awaken you. I'm awake in this moment right now with you guys, man. I feel your energy. Like, I'm over here burning up. I don't know if you can see it. And it's not embarrassment. It's not shyness. I'm in here with creative people. And I feed off that same energy that you guys feed off. I understand that we're all energy beings and that we all have ideas. And I promise you that your idea is an idea that's going to help somebody. And it may not help them. You may not even be here. I'm sure Dr. Sibens wasn't here to know that he was going to help me. And he's helped me. He's helped me identify what I want to do, identify how to do it, and to know that somebody did it before me. So there's no need to, walk in fear. All I know is as an entrepreneur, I don't want to work punching somebody's clock. I want to work to have freedom to be with my granddaughters. Plain and simple. My granddaughters know every inch of the kitchen. They're 15 months old, but they need to know this stuff. Don't touch that. Okay, this goes here. You smell that? And I make it a point whenever they're at home with us, I get up and I cook them breakfast. Why? Because it's the start of their day. And I don't want them to have a bunch of processed foods that I don't know what's in there. That's irresponsible. Because these processed foods cause damage. These processed foods are the reason that ADHD and things of that nature exist. And so I'm no fool to it. That's my responsibility. I have to be responsible with my portion to give you guys good food. And I pride myself in giving you guys good food. So forgive me at the window. If it takes a little longer, I'm working on that as far as the mac and cheese go. But it's not highly processed. It's really good food. And I can really smile every time you take a bite. And so let's go to how I price my finished product. So I used to do, I think it was 20-20-60, and 20% would go back into your business. It's the money that you put right back into that. But 60% of it you're paying out. And so that was kind of foolish. I didn't want to pay 60% because then I'm not making no money, man. I can't pay myself. I mean, it's one thing to have on a shirt. It's another thing, man, to have some zeros in your bank account and a nice amount of zeros in your bank account. I'm not talking about like $0, you know. So what I did was I started researching on YouTube all these guys and girls who were in my field cooking food and how they priced. And I listened to them and I watched this entrepreneur site. It's called Upflip. And I watch each and every one of these entrepreneurs because they all have genuine stories, and their genuine stories all start the same. I was scared to start, but when they jumped in, the vision always, it becomes bigger. Basically, it outpace your marathon. You know what I mean? So I had to learn my pace, and in my pace, I had to learn how to go 30-30-30-10. Okay, so 30% now goes back into business. That's an investment. You're still paying yourself when that 30% goes back into your business. 30% could go to marketing, but you cut marketing out and it's free now because you learned how to do it yourself. Or you have a friend. You go on a buddy system, like I do with Davis. Hey, you come shoot this for me and then I'll shoot for you. Now you're just trading time for time. That's the barter system. It's the same principle, except for I'm going to trade you work for work. I got a guy who cut trees. And so I didn't want to go to Ace or Menards or Bumgar and buy no more of that wood, man. It's too expensive. And I need a local source. So I tapped my local source. I took them all, his whole crew, lunch for free. Here you go. When you guys get done cutting these trees and you have some nice walnut wood, would you come fill up my 50-gallon drums? So I have wood. That's a smart business move. And the 10%. So you got 30-30-30-10. The 10% is called a legacy fund. It's money that can't be touched. It belongs to my granddaughters. Why? Because now I'm responsible for healing 7 generations of trauma before me. And that's very, very important to why I live right now. I have to heal these generations of trauma so we jump into generations of prosperity and performance and abundance, and we're able to help. And in the long run, I guess me making money is not all about how big my pockets are, but how well I use that money to help others. And that's what I understand from Dr. Simon. So, you know, that's a big responsibility in itself. We've done Wood, Wine, and Blues twice, and we're invited back this year. We've done Ragbri. We've done the Barnes Rodeo last year. I never even knew that existed. Like, that's backwoods where you're really on somebody's ranch and it's a city full of people in that ranch. And that experience to me was, I never seen people ride bulls. I seen it firsthand. That was pretty cool. I mean, it was kind of scary, you know. I don't know how you could just get on a bull like that, but it's not for me to understand. I was just there to feed them. And so these events make it easier for me to see where the money's going. Okay, because we go to Wood, Wine, and Blues, I know we're going to make a nice amount of money. So now I know I have a month. That buys me a month with my grandchildren. We go to Ragbri, that buys me probably 6 months with my grandchildren. We go to the rodeo, you know, that's less damaging on my equipment too. Because I had an Escalade, I had to trade my Escalade, trade my Comfort for a 3/4 ton diesel that's $5 a gallon right now to drive. I didn't foresee that. But now that I see that, I'm thinking, man, I probably need a gas truck. You know, but that's a business decision. And those decisions are smart decisions. It's your business. It's your direction. And it's up to you to focus to see where you can save money and why you're going to save it. You know, I think that 10% is probably the most important percentage in my business. What goes to my granddaughters? What can I leave behind? I also, and I think this is important, I kind of changed how I eat and how I feed people and how I approach. On that menu is not an item that I just created. It's called a Harmony Bowl. And a Harmony Bowl, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Dr. Yakai. He's out of St. Louis. He suffered heart attacks, used to do a lot of cocaine, had a checkered past, but he learned how to, he's a herbalist, sort of like Dr. Sabi. And so he learned how to change your blood and feed your gut in a way that it heals you without modern medicine. And so I adopted that. And the Harmony Bowl is basically a smoked chicken breast inside of an acorn squash bowl. But the acorn squash has cloves pressed in the bottom because cloves activate your digestive system and they carry your blood better. So I'm thinking about people other than myself and people that don't eat bread and people that want something that's different and balanced. You know, I try to end off everything with I've incorporated ginger fans. And a ginger fan is just thinly sliced because ginger is really spicy. It'll bite you, you know. So if you're not used to it, here's a ginger fan. It's just like somebody handed you mint. Mint is meant to calm your stomach down. Well, a ginger fan is meant to help with your digestion. Digestion is supposed to speed up the process without upsetting your stomach. So it's very important to have that. Also important to have is cayenne. And that's for people like myself with heart issues. And so I adopted these things to change my menu so everything incorporates the same way. You're getting the same thing. The banana bread, our banana bread will be used for everything from French toast to dessert. You want chocolate chip banana bread? We got it. Chocolate raspberry? We got it. Peanut butter, we got it. But it's still the same concept. So basically, I've taken everything and used one item to turn it into 10. And I think that's probably the most successful thing I've done since opening the business, was learn how to use one thing and take that one thing and make a bunch of things out of that one thing. So I save money and I become self-dependent, self-reliant. Other than that, I don't think it's any easy steps, to be honest. None of this stuff is easy. Getting up in the morning ain't easy, but it's necessary. And whatever your steps are, if there's a person out there that can help you, ask for help. If you don't need help and you got it, great. Help the next person that does need it. Because we all depend on one another, man. That's what being a human being is about. Because we are who we have, man. And I appreciate each and every one of you. So I would like to see you guys here soon. I do have an event and it's open. You guys can come check it out. It's a flame rally at the Pentecostal church here. And that'll be Sunday at 4:00. There'll be some food available, $10 a plate. Come on in and get a sample. I probably remember your face. So, I always make sure I got extras just to let you know. So if you find yourself hungry on Sunday, think about me. Come check us out, man. Come see what it's really about. Get the firsthand experience about HolySmokes. I guarantee you something, that you'll love. I promise that. I put love in every bit of food that I cook. So, other than that, anybody got some questions?
One. So you go up the RAGBRAI and everything like that. How do you choose where else you're going to position yourself, and how do you advertise that to the public?
Okay. We used Facebook for marketing last year to let everybody know. And RAGBRAI is a big community. So once you link in with RAGBRAI on the Facebook, it just spreads to all the riders. And as far as positioning, you have to set up with the city. So we contacted the city of Milford. They had somebody come out and show us where we will be. We went up there a few days in advance to kind of get the lay of the land. So we knew, I want to know what I'm pulling into. I have a 12 by 8.5 trailer and I need some room, but we're right positioned in between semi showers. I don't know if you guys ever seen those, but they're like, they bring these semis in, these big tanks of water, and people are able to take showers. So that's the way we pretty much got in there and the way it was set up. But if I had a choice of where to set up, I would have set up by the main stage. They had a whole, right around the corner, they had a whole live band going, and live music always draws people. I don't care how tired you are. You want to go hear the music, So, but we didn't have a choice. They kind of just put us where they wanted to put us. But the blessing in that is that we did well enough as a small business that we got the invite back for this year. So that's what I was shooting for, and that's what we got. And I learned a lesson. And the big lesson was don't over prepare, or at least have everything on chill and be able to heat it up. And we have a heating source. So that was a huge lesson for me.
Sometimes on those events, you're given a less desirable position if you're a first timer and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you earn your way into better slots. You had fortunate positioning at Woodline and Blues this past year because you were just off to the left of the main stage.
Right.
And so you were actually in visual eyesight of anything going on the stage. So that was some good positioning there.
Absolutely. And it was appreciated. It was kind of a last minute thing with Woodline and Blues just because they had so many vendors coming.
And you were next to the wine. So
there it is. Absolutely. one hand washes the other. And I think as a community, when you have a lot of small businesses or trailers, food trailers coming in from all over the place, it's important that you get to know these people because you're probably going to do more events with them. It's a team of us who go out here and do events now. So, and it's easier. That's the lay of the land, man. If I had my way, I would have a restaurant, but I would only open it 3 days a week, period. Because it takes me 3 days to smoke all this food. I don't know if you guys are into smoking food, any of you, anybody? It takes hours, man. And I don't just go out there and throw wood on there. You have to do it a certain way. And so that's what I do. I go out there and I smoke these foods and I talk to my ancestors and I remove my shoes and I stand in the grass and I face the sun and I do all these things that recharge me because I'm giving a lot of myself to everybody else. And it's okay. I enjoy that.
So when he says hours, what he's saying is like a brisket. Different folks cook it differently, but you're talking 13, 15, 18 hours to smoke that piece of meat.
So I take my first 3 days and I smoke everything that I need to smoke. Then I take the next 3 days and I serve it to you all. And then I take a day to kind of unscramble my head from all that's went on. I think it would make it better for me to hire a team this year. And maybe I'll be able to do that. Maybe I won't. But what I will be able to do is still bring you all food at my pace. I'm not in a rush. I'm just here to bring you guys some really, really good food at a really fair price. I played college football. I went to Montana Tech University, home of the ore diggers. I know about entrepreneurs. I don't know if you all ever heard of the Berkeley Pit or maybe Marcus Daly. Marcus Daly was a guy who founded copper mines. And the Berkeley Pit is a result of that. It's a 2-mile deep crevice into the earth. It's the biggest active pit that they have, and it's filled with all kind of toxic water. Well, this guy was a copper king. Okay, so he was an entrepreneur. In order to be that copper king, what he did was he took all the people that invested with him and he bought them out when they were ready to retire. And so he owned the Anaconda smelter. He owned this business and that business. And over 100 years later, his family is still spending money that he made back then. He's been dead 100 years. That's legacy. That's something to build on, something to be proud of. I don't need a big parade or nothing like that. All I need is smiling faces, man, full stomachs. Smiling faces, full stomachs, repeat customers. That's what I'm really about.
Have you thought about catering for weddings or quinceañeras or other types of events like that?
Absolutely.
Pull the truck up.
Absolutely. That was the rodeo. That's how that started. Was somebody suggested this on Facebook, and we got a call from Marty Barnes. I don't know if you guys know him either, but he owns one of the biggest ranches out here. And I'm telling you, when I pulled up to that guy's property, I was intimidated. I'd never seen so many people in one place with all these animals all over the place, and the animals are angry. Yeah, them bulls were pretty angry. But that invite to that event was an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And that opportunity turned into more opportunities. And I got to be seen in front of a bunch of ranchers. This wasn't just, so I looked at the scale of that opportunity and figured, hey, if we get called for weddings, I'll adapt. And yeah, we'll go do a wedding. Because it's better than me pulling up all the time and just wearing my trailer out. I would love to cater events. Events are big checks, man.
So how far in your business planning have you figured out logistically you can make money? What's your radius from where you will, how far out you will go? I ask because, for example, Litterdale, which is just outside Carroll, a little ways, it's a town, and there's a big caterer there, Litterdale Caterers. And so Litterdale does a lot of catering in Western Iowa, But they have occasionally done wedding jobs for folks that they know way over into eastern Iowa. And so you're talking a 2-3 hour drive for them going to the other side of the state. So what's your geographic radius that you have determined I can make money in this geographic radius? And beyond that, it's starting to cost me money. It's too far out.
Okay.
Have you plotted that?
Actually, I think I haven't really had the opportunity to plot how far out I will go, but I do know I was able to cater food to our entire family in Montana over Christmas, but that was without the trailer.
Without the trailer.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you consider the trailer, some of these roads aren't favorable, and things shake in a trailer. You know, and I have a whole setup. I have a broiler, I have a flat top, I have a fryer, but I do no fried foods. The only thing fried is that bread. Other than that, I don't do fried foods. So I think just looking out for my equipment, it would probably be safe to say I'll go as far as Kinnick Stadium that way, and probably as far as Sturgis this way with the trailer. Without the trailer, if it's 100 people event, I just did that recently at what is it called?
So Sturgis is putting you, I was in South Dakota and taught there for a while. So Sturgis is putting you 9 hours, 9.5, 10 hours.
Absolutely. And so my daughter used to live there, but it was big for my mother and
You're
father-in-law.
compensating because when Sturgis has the rally, you're getting 200,000 people coming in to the hills. So it's huge.
Absolutely.
And they're hungry.
Yeah. So the juice is worth the squeeze.
It is.
You know, and I look at that overhead wise, I look at it like this.
And the roads are good the whole way getting there.
Right. And so when we travel, I look at the cost of the trailer, period, and the cost of the truck. You know, so if I know I can make that going to that event.
Diesel prices, that's not so practical. So you're gonna have to think of.
Yeah, I got to get smarter as far as that goes.
Am I going the F-150? That's actually a hybrid, because there is a hybrid.
Right.
But the F-150 or the F-250 that are hybrids don't yet have the distance. You would have to plan in stop and recharge time.
Right.
Halfway on your trip.
Right.
So is it smarter to go gas, or can I go hybrid vehicle? The EVs, you have to stop and charge. Hybrid, I have hybrids so that I can get the distance. So I run the EV part of it, the electric vehicle part of it. It runs automatically in most of the city and town. But when I'm going a long distance trip, then it kicks over to gasoline.
Okay.
So that I don't have to do a stop and charge.
Right.
That's why I do the hybrids. But EV trucks don't have that distance on them yet.
Absolutely. No, but Chrysler and Mopar and Ram were in development of the eco diesel. So I sold the first two in the northern hemisphere. I worked at Butte, Dodge, Ram, and that motor had a 750-mile distance per full tank. So if I can get that motor in a diesel for, a 2,500, that would be decent.
Yep.
So I'll make the suggestion. It's not like, maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't. But I think the way things are headed in the car industry towards EVs, it would make sense to just keep my truck and make up for it. I'm already knee deep in payments. So yeah.
And there's a certain part where you're upside down anyway. So.
Right. And the upside down part would be me going to get a new truck and paying $1,000 a month. I can't afford that. That's just way out of line, man. The prices for new trucks or new cars, period.
Questions for him? Comments? He shared a lot of very honest information with y'all.
Let's say hypothetically you get 2.5 hours away without your truck for catering. Prefer either a kitchen or a full kitchen. Have the food prepared and then just need to warm it up, or
hypothetically, if I could get a commissary kitchen, that would be awesome wherever that location is, because that means I don't need to bring the trailer, you know. But if there's no kitchen there, I would have to bring the trailer so I can warm everything up right there.
Well, if we, if there was a catering kitchen, you'd have all the warmers.
Then that would make it easy. I could just bring the food, you know, and that would make it so I can cater more than 100 people. The 100 people part is easy. I can do that myself, and that's what I'm doing this Sunday. So, and I don't need a team. You know, I might have a volunteer if they want to come volunteer, come help. You know, serve drinks. We get a lot of elderly people at the church, but other than that, 100 people, I'm good by myself. Anything over that, I need a crew. It's can't do a lot without a crew. Can't. Unless you run in a t-shirt shop. But even then, you need distribution and, you know, things of that nature. You need somebody that's shipping and handling all day. This is what you do, ship and handle. You know, but again, you gotta have somebody to tell you that the baby is ugly. That stuck with me.
If you had your truck, what do you look for setting up at a destination? Is there anything specific, like specific outlets or?
I look for a 220 outlet. That would make it so I don't have to run my generator, which makes it a quieter setting. My generator is loud. I don't know why it growls the way it does, but it came from Menards. When they had the flood in Spencer, this was my first year in operation, and I had some extra money at the time, but it was people in need. So I drove my trailer up there and I fed 100 people. 100 people got free meals. I didn't need applause or anything like that, but that's what I look for is a 220 plug. As long as I have that, then it's a quiet operation. We can interact more with the people, and that's what I like. I like interacting with people. My wife, Michelle, she just loves people. She's a server right now, and this is what she does. So, you know, that's it. That's the only requirement. I don't need I have a 30-gallon tank inside my trailer, so I have water running hot and cold, hand washing station, place to do dishes, and I can always empty it on my way out. You know, so it's not too much of a requirement.
Again, what question do you have? I'm going to ask everybody. I want you all to ask a question. Adrian, what question do you have?
It's not like necessarily a question. It's more like an idea. Like that you're out there. I know that I heard that you're in a community,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of other communities. I say that would be beneficial for like food truck business. I feel like the car community is like going to car shows and stuff like that. It's a cool opportunity. You get to see cool cars, but also you're making business for that.
Absolutely.
Did one already. Okay.
Yeah, we did a car show across the street from Tyson. Yeah. I love events like that. I've been trying to get inside these home shows and things of that nature, gun shows. You know, basically, if I can get inside these communities and I don't have to stress so much, I could probably do 6 events a year and feed my family well and still give back to the community and not worry about finance. You know, so that's my ultimate goal as an entrepreneur and owning a food truck is to open a restaurant, but still be able to cater to these events. I still want to be a part of that. The restaurant just gives me a way to employ some people that really need the money. You know, I know on the other end of it, when I was an employee, I hated the fact that there wasn't insurance for me. That you know, I can go to work every day and bust my hump for 12 hours, but at the end of the day, if I get sick, then what? I'm stuck with the bill. I don't like that, man. If I'm trading my time and my energy to help you build your dream, then you should be responsible and make sure that my health is well, is what I felt. So the way I feel as an owner operator is if I can't hire you full time and offer you insurance, then I really don't have um, a need to ask you to come work for me. That's irresponsible. So I try to treat people the way I want to be treated, man. And I know people go through health stuff because, believe me, man, I was 47 years old. I didn't expect no heart attack. I played football. You know, it wasn't D1, but I played college ball and I walked onto that team. Um, so to have these unexpected things throw a curveball, I don't know. You kind of can't plan for this stuff except for to plan for it. You know, you can't. It's like an oxymoron. You can't, but you can. But you know, you just gotta kind of use your foresight.
Hayden, question.
What, so when you're out at like a place like Ragbri and other stuff, are you looking for like more opportunities? Like how much business are you doing while you're working?
I'm always doing business. I don't care who the person is. Some people, you know, they have to wait for their food, so I'll step outside the trailer and take the food myself to introduce myself. You know what I mean, and our brand, just to let them know that, you know, it really is business. I'm always doing business. I think that's the number one thing you should be doing whenever you start a business, is always be selling. This is something I learned in the car industry. Uh, there were so many people from different parts of this nation at Ragbri. David Robinson was there. He's a former NBA player. They called him the Admiral. Played for the Spurs. That guy was there. And all these people from these different walks of life. So if you can affect them and give them a great meal that they'll remember, then that may be a chance for you to get hired somewhere, even if I have to take the show out of state. You know, so that's a really good question, man. That's how I would do it. Always be selling. Put your best foot forward. I don't think in my mind there's no such thing as a first impression, right? So that's why I came up and shook everybody's hand, because that's the only impression people get of you, is that first handshake. How you doing? You know what I mean? That's it. You got those, you know, probably 3 to 15 seconds to make an impression on a person. And in the car business, it was make an impression, but I have to make this deal make sense. I wasn't a car salesman that liked to bury my customers. I want to see people. I want to repeat customers. And so I branded my business in making sure that the deal made sense for them. You know, hey, I can't afford that extra $50 in payment. And I would make it make sense. Well, do you smoke cigarettes? Yeah. Well, if you stop smoking cigarettes or cut down your cigarette smoke, here's the extra $50 right here. Do you need a car more, or do you need the cigarettes more? It makes sense. You know.
Sorry, my apologies.
You good?
It happens. You get those little ones that are just there and they just won't go away. My apologies.
It just happened to me the other day in the parking lot. I got out and this guy was worried, and I was like, "Hey man, if I fall over, just call my wife, man. I'll be okay."
Jay, you're up.
Have you done like any colleges yet, or like any like high school events or stuff like that?
I have not, but you know what? I'm glad you asked that. Alyssa gave me an invite to come down here, so I'll be down here April 24th, and you guys can come check me out, man. And you know, like I said, I remember faces, and since it's such a small room, I'm sure I remember every one of you. And if not, just remind me. And you said your macaroni and cheese was the best, man. I want to know what that's about, you know. And we'll get it going, but I look forward to it. I think this community is probably the perfect opportunity to get the word out there to young people. All of you guys have social media. That's important to think about, you know, because usually when people have a meal in front of them that they just can't resist and it's that good, they're on the phone. And next thing you know, you're on somebody's Instagram. You're on somebody, and if it's crap, they're on the phone and it's forming an opinion. So, yeah, I look forward to being up here. Okay.
That's a good question. What is your opinions on the competition of other vendors, food trucks?
My opinion on competition, there is no competition. There's room for everybody. What do you bring to the table? Bring it and be the best at it, man. There is only a responsibility. And that responsibility is to bring people healthy food, good food. That's it. So when I see my competition, I welcome them. I trade food with them. You know, hey, let me try that. And here's a sample of everything. You know, that's the best way to get to know your competition. But I don't think it's competition. In the big dog status, when you got a brick and mortar people fight over controlling that atmosphere. When you're in the trailer and you're able to pull up, it's more of a welcoming feeling. So it's not too much competition. I get nervous like every other vendor, but I'm there to put my best foot forward. Only competition I have is myself. If I don't put my best foot forward, it shows. Did I answer your question? I don't want no problems, man.
Well, I'm like new to the opportunity. So I want to say I'm doctor.
So after I had my heart attacks, my insurance kicked in. I did have insurance. And my father-in-law, who had just lost his wife, he went to Vegas and he hit for $20,000 on a machine. And he called my wife. He was like, "Yeah, Missy, so I won $20,000. I want you guys to start a food trailer." And my insurance covered $50,000. And then I had $14,000 in stocks, and I had another $3,000 after I sold my motorcycle, which I cried. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm a grown man. I cried a lot about my motorcycle, but you know, things had to be done. So that was my first initial thrust into the business. Was I had to do something. I mean, we could just spend the money and live, but then what? You know. So how I even got into entrepreneurship was through college. I went to Montana Tech for nursing. Then I stopped going because I went back to prison. And then after prison, I got custody of my youngest daughter. So I was a single dad. So now I'm like, okay, I got my daughter, and what do I do? I couldn't just sell cars, but I did. I sold cars and I went to school online at Ashford University for entrepreneurship. And that's the first time I ever seen a 4.0 grade average. So I knew it was for me. I get an opportunity to be creative. There's no question about what I want to do. It's the most freedom I've ever felt because I get to just use my mind. There's no direction. Nobody gives you a script on how to do it. You just got to jump out there and do it. And there's no perfect weather. Don't ever wait for perfect weather. It's not going to happen. It wasn't perfect weather today when I pulled up. I could use an 80-degree day. I like 80 degrees, but I'm here with you all right now, so it's perfect. You know, that's it. Just be in the moment. Stay in the moment with your entrepreneurship.
Thank Martin for coming today and being honest and sharing his journey with us.
Hey, I appreciate you guys for having me, man. For real, for real. And I'll be back with some food here soon. So
You and Hunter are on for chapter 10 on Tuesday.